I love this text from John. You know, you almost don't have to preach it. The first John reading about God is love. And whoever loves is from God. Wherever there is love, God is. And wherever there is not love, well, the light source is cut off. So what more do you have to say about that? If we love each other, we love God, because God is love. And we can only love because God first loved us. Yeah, well, that's kind of hard to do on our own, of course. And the thing that I want to talk about this morning is what is the language of love, really? Because love is so distorted in our culture today, and in our church even, and anywhere you go. Love is seen as this nice fuzzy feeling that you have for someone. And so if you don't like someone, then you can't love them. And that's really not true at all, because John is calling his church to love each other. And you know, as well as I do, in any church, there are folks that you just plain don't like, and you don't get along with. And you really have to fight real hard to be polite. And these are people that you might sit relatively close to. These are people that you commune with and share the body and blood of Christ with. And sometimes it happens in your own home. I know when my daughter Katie was in 8th grade, I thought she was possessed by a demon. What happened to this child, this beautiful little baby that I brought to baptism like Carson was brought this morning, who smiled at me and loved me and laughed? And now all of a sudden I could tell her the sky was blue today, and she'd say, no, it's not. So there are times when we don't like each other very much. But love is not, it's more than that warm, fuzzy feeling that you have for someone. Love is about action. It's about how you treat each other. And when I was at Synod Assembly, of course, I go to the bookstore, one of the first things I do. And there's a book there that actually someone else had mentioned to me beforehand. I didn't pick it up because I had Googled and researched it before getting to Assembly. But it's a book by Gary Chapman, and it's called The 5 Love Languages. And in it, he describes the 5 actions of love. And they're quality time. That you spend quality time with someone. They are physical touch. They are acts of service. They are words of affirmation. And they're also receiving gifts. Those 5 things. And I'm just going to mention a little bit about each one of those. Because there are ways you express love to each other. And ultimately, they are ways that God expresses love to us every day. And you can go online and Google this, and you can even take a little quiz to find out, if you want to, which are the most important ways to you that you receive love from your loved one, and also how you express love. Physical touch. This is the one that I scored the highest on. I love those tests. They're great fun. Physical touch. It's not just sexual intimacy. It's also hugs, and it's a pat on the shoulder or the back, or it's holding hands. The greatest thing I love is when Paul and I are taking a walk and he reaches over and just takes my hand. Thoughtful touches, healthy, thoughtful touches, all are ways to show love. And we know, and we have read studies from the medical field about how important touch is. If babies don't receive touch, they grow up and become very, very sick individuals that don't know how to love. Touch is so important to us. People in nursing homes, touch is so important. We lose that, and we lose our sense of our humanity and love. Touch. Physical touch is so important. The next one is acts of service. One of the neatest things that happened is that my husband, the last time he was here and stayed with me at the apartment, he and Katie left before I was able to get back at the end of second service. And I got back and I found all the dishes done. And he had left me a note that the wash was in the washer, and all I had to do was throw it in the dryer. He wasn't able to, he didn't have time before they had to leave to do that for me. Acts of love, taking a responsibility or a chore, something as simple as vacuuming the floor, for Pete's sake. You think they're such little things, but those acts of service that you do for someone else, something that they would ordinarily have to do, but you do it for them and you surprise them with it. It's an act of love. Quality time. Quality time. This is big for Paul. Is that you be together and do something together. You spend time with that person. Last time I was in Duluth, when I was off last week, one of the things we did was we took a walk from Canal Park. We took a hike, actually, from Canal Park up to Enger Tower, which is a 2-mile hike one way. But during this time, it was the best time, one of the best times I've had with my husband, because we spent time together. We talked on the way up and down that hike. And he had also gone through the trouble of making sure that he knew where the Lake Superior hiking trail picked up in Canal Park so that we didn't wander more than 2 miles. He also was thoughtful enough to pack us a picnic lunch. It was a great day. It was a beautiful day like this. Time, quality time. Turn the TV off. Put your cell phone away. Sit down and look face to face with that person and be with each other. You don't have to spend money to do it. Just be together. Words of affirmation. And it could be as simple as saying, I love you. But it could also be telling someone, I see this gift in you. You have this incredible gift of hospitality, of how you welcome people into your home. I don't have that particular gift, by the way, but my husband does. I get nervous and have to clean the house and make sure everything is, in its right place and all this kind of thing, and it creates nothing but stress for me. Paul has just the best time in the world creating that space for folks to come in and be welcomed. But it's noticing gifts that different people have. The gifts, I'm always amazed at the gifts of arrangement and decoration that the women that work at the mustard seed have. Oh my goodness sakes, the way they arrange things makes me want to buy everything in that store. Whether it's clothes or whether it's wall arrangements or whether it's how they display things on a table. It's an incredible gift. I don't have that gift. I so admire it in people who do. But letting folks know what it is you appreciate about them. What do you appreciate about this person? What is unique about this person that no one else is like this person? Words of affirmation. And then receiving gifts. And of course, we have the ultra-consumerism of Christmas time where you just buy and give. And that's not the gift. That's not the gift giving we're talking about here. The gift giving, of giving something to someone, is when you know that person so well and you see something that is them, right? It is so them. My best friend loves Celtic works, and she very much follows Celtic Christianity. And her favorite color is purple. My favorite color is blue. We're best friends. When I was in Arizona, what I found for her was this beautiful pin. She wears pins on all her sweaters and jackets and everything. But it was a Celtic knot, and it was in purple and blue. Now, I don't really have that gift of knowing the exact gift to give to someone. But in that case, it was like God had just slapped me across the head and said, get this for Judy. But that's the gift giving, is that you know someone so well that you know what would give them joy. And you give that to them. My friend Judy's new daughter-in-law, in fact, has that gift like nobody else has it. The first year that she met her future mother-in-law, she had put together a book of pictures of Judy's 2 children when they were children, and wrote a story about Benjamin and Cynthia, and wove it into that book of pictures. which of course just, and you know when that happens to you, when you receive a gift that is so you, and you see the thoughtfulness of the person behind it, gift giving. So we've got these 5 things. So when we think about it, if God is love, God does all 5 of these things all the time for us. And what does that look like? What does that look like in your life? And I was thinking about that too. How have I seen God gift me with and show me God's love with the gift of touch, physical touch? And I think of the 2 stories that I had already shared with you. My experience of God in forgiveness as a womb surrounding me with God's love. That was a physical feeling of being surrounded, like being surrounded by a comforter, one of those quilts, a prayer shawl. You receive a prayer shawl, you receive the touch of God, don't you? Whenever you put that prayer shawl on your legs or around your shoulders, you receive not only the gift of a fellow Christian, but you also receive that touch of God. Receiving gifts from God, God knowing exactly who you are and what a gift would touch you the most. My husband Paul and I were never able to have children. I mean, my first husband, Larry, and I were never able to have children. And so we went through all the tests, couldn't find anything wrong. Both of us figured it was us. We went our separate ways. He remarried, had a child. I married Paul, and I figured, okay, it's me. Larry had a child with his second wife, and so it's me. And lo and behold, 2 years after my marriage to Paul, which was also a gift from God, it was Katie. I always wanted a child and never could have one, and my heart aches for couples who are unable to bear children, because I was there. And this miracle of touch, or of a gift, a very special gift received from God of this beautiful child, Katie. Affirming words. How does God speak to you with affirming words that build you up and assure you of God's love? And again, I would go back to the story of the labyrinth where I heard from God, you have not failed. You have not failed. I make all things new. Now rest in me. God speaks to you in the silence of your heart with affirming words. Service. This one I really struggled with. How does God take something that's a mundane, everyday job that might be mine, and take it and do it for me? And I thought, duh, Cheryl, remember when you were back in seminary and all you worried about all the time was money because our income was cut in half. I wasn't working anymore. I was going to school full time. And so all we had was Paul's income. And of course, depending on God to find the jobs as we moved around from internship to seminary to then first call. God took on my worries about finances because somehow when we needed money the most, we'd receive in the mail a check for just the right amount of money that we needed from a member of my home congregation, of our home congregation, Gloria Dei Lutheran Church in New Holstein, Wisconsin. Some member in that congregation had it on their heart that they needed to send us a check, and we'd receive a card with the beautiful words of affirmation and encouragement and a check. Now, if that isn't a gift from God, I don't know what it is. Of course, it came again through a person, but it's a gift from God that the Spirit placed on these folks' hearts. If you know any seminary students and you have the means and the desire to do that, oh my gosh, I can't tell you how much that means. And then finally, time. Time of spending with you. How does God spend time with you? How does God spend time with you? God spends time with you in the silence of your hearts. When you sit in silence, when you walk a labyrinth, when you walk the stations of the cross, God is there spending quality time with you. Whenever you turn your attention or think about God, God is there spending time with you. But I think also especially of the time that God spends with us in the person and the body of a fellow believer, of a Christian brother or sister, which is why community is so important. It's the body of Christ spending time with each other. And I think of when my first marriage fell apart and my husband had moved out, and I knew this particular day he was going to come back to the house and take all his belongings and, furniture or whatever that he needed. I didn't know what was going to be disappearing other than his personal belongings, but we had agreed on this. And my best friend from church, Colleen, said, "You want me to go with you when you go home from work today?" I said, "Oh, sure, that would be okay." And so she followed me home from work and walked into that house with me where half of my life was ripped away. And we walked through each room to see what was gone so that I could take that blow and take that blow and take that blow. She was right by my side. As I walked into the living room and said, "Oh, he took that couch. Okay, I thought he was going to take this other one. All right." And we walked into the kitchen, and I noticed what things were gone from there, this piece from the wall, into the family room, into each room we walked into. And into, finally, our bedroom, and half the clothes gone. The bed from the spare room was gone. And I knew all this was going to happen. It was just the actual seeing and walking through and doing. And then we went back in the living room, and I sat down and started to cry, and Colleen just sat there with me and helped me. That was God. That was God giving me time, quality time. Love. God is love. And wherever there is love, that's where God is. Wherever there is love, that's where God is. And God does these 5 things all the time. The fun, if you will, of a hike ended up being a 4-mile hike, of course, up and down. Quality time with sore muscles afterwards. Yeah, that's love too. But all of these things, God brings God's love to us. And this is love. This is love. So think about how God comes to you in your life in these 5 ways: in touch, in gifts, in affirming words, in service, acts of service, and in quality time with you. How God does this with you so that you can turn around and do this with each other. Because the odd thing is when you share love with each other, that's also God sharing God's love. Thanks be to God.